Evening all. Well, thought I'd do something different today, seeing as I'm in a different company. I'm in a Mercedes today. Yay! Although it is a little baby one, so it's a bit of a bastard, but it's just nice being back in them. Weird thing with them that I've found is when I drove Volvos and when I drove Scania, or when I drive Scanias, after a while I tend to kind of just lean over the steering wheel as I'm trundling along. I don't tend to sit especially in the Scanias, because those ones I have my seat as high as possible. Always have done, always will do. It's just something, it's most comfortable position for me. But the thing is, the windshield is lower in them, and so when I'm sitting there like that, I'm looking straight through the sun visor in the Scanias, and it's really annoying. Although I have sat in a new Scania at the Scania service and dealership place, South Mims. They had one in, and I was curious about it. And I went, yeah, go and have a look, go and have a shifty drive. Don't worry about that. And I have to admit that the windshield is raised up now, so it doesn't kind of just, because in the older ones you get the dash, and the dash just kind of goes on forever, and the windshield meets it at the bottom. And of course, it's lower at the top. Whereas this one, it's pretty similar. Don't yell at me, but it's pretty similar windshield height style thing to a Mercedes, which is actually really good. And it's actually really nicely laid out in there. It does look a lot more, I don't know, what's the term? More, I hate to say it, but it looks more professional. I know that sounds really odd, but it does. Everything's, admittedly they're new, so everything is going to be really good anyway. But the overspeed control, you know how a lot of the fleet spec Scanias don't have the overspeed, so you just end up sledding down the hill? Well, they don't have a button where you can go in through the steering wheel, although they still have the cruise control at the bottom of the steering wheel, which is why. But the onboard computer assesses that you're going uphill, gives you more power, so you don't have to go into power mode all the time. And it also identifies when you're going downhill, from what I've been told, so that it will hold your speed. You won't just sled away like, well, the older ones did. I mean, you can be trundling along. I'm always going up and down the Bleaton A2 M2, and there's a couple of nice hills on that road. And you can be trundling along, minding your own business, and then you look down and you're like, oh, I'm going a little bit quick. I'm doing an amazing 56 miles an hour. Yeah. Even the Pratt nav's going, now you're going too quick, mate. But yeah, it's really nicely laid out as well. In the older ones that I'm used to driving, you got a pull-out drawer. My hand's disappearing, but you got a pull-out drawer down that kind of area, and it's just a standard plasticky, nasty little drawer, and it's, from what I can gather, just a magnet that holds it in place, and the magnets fail, drop off, whatever. The little clink kind of into the magnet just fails, and then they just open all the time when you're driving along. The one that I saw has a drawer, again, you know, on a kind of a roller system, as you would have for a drawer, but it's got a lever latch, so it shouldn't fail and just open as you're driving along, which could be really good in the long term. But again, I don't drive them. I was just sitting in one that was waiting to be got ready for a client and everything like that. But it is nicely laid out. It's a nice area to be, a nice place to be. And one thing with the older Scanias is they were quite thin units. And where they tapered off, your door mirrors are closer in. And the one thing I've noticed with those Scanias is they're a pain in the arse to reverse. You know, something that I do in this, for example, today, I've the depot I'm at the moment, you've got your trailer, and then a tiny little gap, and a trailer, and a tiny little gap, and a trailer, and a tiny little gap, and a trailer, and a wall just to log there. The thing is, you actually have to wind your legs down, then raise your air suspension and go back, because you cannot walk between the two trailers. And in this, whap, straight in, job's a good one. But some of the bays I go on to when I'm in the Scanias, I don't know whether it's because they're slightly further in or they're just a weird angle. You think you're lined up. Yep, I'm lined up. You chase it, you're nowhere near lined up. And you're like, what the hell? You know, you get to that point and you think, lovely jubbly, and you end up, instead of being kind of that close to the little metal runners on the bays, you're that close. And you're like, well, that's not what it looked like a moment ago. It's really, really off-putting in them. But in the new Scanias, the cabs are square. They're wider. Now, I know a lot of people said, oh, Scania's gone square, ooh, when they first came out. But the thing is, Scania were always square. I mean, think about it. Think about the old 143Ms and things like that. They were always square. The old Scania Supers, you know, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, they were all square. It was only near the end of the 90s when the old shape now, obviously the rounded ones came in, and they were all rounded and weird. And a lot of people said the same thing. Ooh, they're all rounded, they don't look like a Scania. Ooh. Whereas the new ones, they've gone square again, so the mirrors are further out, and it does look so much more visible just sitting in there, just having a shufty with just the unit. It looks like you've got so much more visibility. So hopefully a company I roll for at some point, excuse me, will upgrade to them, and I'll see how good they are, because I think these ones are going to be really good ones. But there we go. I just prefer the Mercs because of the visibility in these things. It's insane amounts of visibility in these. It's just, they're perfect for visibility. Again, the gearbox is a bit, but then again, all Merc gearboxes are a bit, But yeah, anyway, that's a little bit of those, because I got into a new Scania, so I thought I'd have a shufty, but it does look really well laid out. But anyway, moving on. The 1st of November, and it's 2017 at the moment for anybody who's watching this, God knows how long in the future. But 1st of November, a new piece of legislation comes in. And this is bloody fantastic, this is. Taking your 45 reset, you know, your weekend off, in the cab, is no longer legal. No. You're not allowed to do that. No. Because it's not adequate rest. You are obviously staying with the vehicle. You can't really dispose your time how you see fit, because you are technically still at work. The issue I've got with that is, what about a night out? Because technically, on a night out, you're still with the vehicle. You're still in the same situation. You know, I go home between every shift, so this really doesn't affect me. I don't do the tramping style stuff. But I go home, and it's 45 minutes to an hour. Okay? I get back, I have dinner, watch a little bit of TV, have about 4 or 5 hours sleep, get back in my car, drive back in, and I'm off on the road again. If I were to tramp, I would actually have more sleep in one of these than I do going home. Or at least more time in the bunk, you know, more bunk time. So, what's safer? Because I'm curious as to how the rules are going to change. Because if you can't take your 45 in the cab, it's not adequate enough, then what about people like me who go home between shifts? We don't tramp, we do, you know, like supermarket work and stuff like that. Are we only ever going to be allowed to do 12-hour shifts and only ever have 11 hours off minimum? You know, is there going to be rulings brought in for that, or are we still allowed to have 9 hours and therefore have 3 hours sleep? Because we've got to get home and everything else and come back in. Because I think the way it works for us guys is slightly more dangerous than it is for people living on the road. This is why I never do the 9 hours. I always make sure I've got 11 hours in between my shifts. Even if I've done 15 hours, and so technically I am on a reduce for that 24-hour period, I make sure that I've got 11 hours minimum between my start times. Because that way I can always guarantee myself about 7 hours of sleep. Or at least I try to. It depends on what Bert's doing. gets up and blow dries her hair at 5 in the morning. Really? But it is kind of odd, because the other thing is, where are the drivers going to go? Oh, well, you stopped in a Travelodge, didn't you? What, along services? Okay. So let's have a think about this. The average driver in this country, after tax, will take home around about £400 a week. Yeah, some drivers will take home more, obviously. Some drivers will take home less. But it's roughly 400 quid. Right, fair enough. So you've got a Travelodge, which is 40 quid a night. So let's say you have to have your nights out in a Travelodge. Not just the 45 reset, but your nights out as well. Okay, let's just say that for argument's sake. So this is how the law could go. Okay, if you're not allowed to take your 45 in the cab, what's to stop them saying, well, it's not adequate for your night out and stuff like that? Because they could do that. So I'm going along with the old kind of worst case scenario here. So let's think about this. A Travelodge is what? 40 quid a night single. Right, so 5 nights, that's 200 quid. And then you've got to park the vehicle as well, that's 25 quid. Average. Some are more expensive, some are cheaper. And this is in the services where you have Travelodges. So that's 125 quid, so that's £325. Okay? So the average driver takes home, say, £400 a week after all stoppages. And then the company's got to pay another 325 quid on top of that every week, if it were to go to, you can't even night out in the cab anymore. So essentially, the company's got to now pay 2 wages for the same work. Because I can see that working. I can really see that working. And then, of course, you've got at the moment just a 45-hour reset. So you're going to have 2 nights in a Travelodge, that's 80 quid, plus parking the vehicle for a weekend, which is whatever they're going to charge you for it. So say 25 quid each day, so it's 50 quid plus 80 quid. You're talking, what, 130 quid? So, is the company going to pay that? Or are you going to have to pay that? Well, it would be unfair if we have to pay it. Fairness doesn't come into it, never has done. There's some companies I've rolled for when if you get stuck on a night out, they'll give you 15 quid and you better be thankful. That's 15 quid and you better be thankful. And there are other companies that will give you 40 or 50 quid for a night out. So it's not about fairness, it's about what's the company going to pay. You didn't get to, you're not allowed to stop in services. You got to find somewhere where it's free to park the vehicle and it's close to a Travelodge. So an industrial estate that just so happens to have a Premier Inn, Travelodge or whatever sitting on it. There are a few, but again, there are a few. It's not the many. So this is kind of interesting, but I have this sneaking suspicion that we're going to start seeing far more of this kind of legislation coming in. Simply because you're starting to go towards a switchover now with autonomous vehicles. They're testing them. They're here. And it's far easier if you bring in legislation which makes it virtually impossible for drivers to do the damn job. If it's going to cost a company 2 persons worth of wages just for you to go and do your week's worth of deliveries, then why not just get an autonomous vehicle in, and then all of a sudden drivers are just RDC to local stores, or we're the shunters in the yard. An autonomous vehicle comes in, stops, the trailer is dropped in a specific area, we hook up to it, bung it on the bay, maybe we do the local deliveries, so we hook up to them and take them to the store just down the road. But again, how the hell's that going to work? Because of where our DCs are. The company I'm working for, it's got depots in certain areas. One's in Thurrock. Well, I say Thurrock, it's Dagenham technically. One's in Avonmouth, one's here in Nottingham. And there's a couple of other ones. I'm not going to go into every location, obviously. But they service loads of different places. Some of them you actually have to travel to. So I can understand an autonomous vehicle taking a load from the Dagenham branch to here, to Nottingham. But then Nottingham services a lot of local bits and bobs. Some of them about an hour's drive, hour and a half, 2 hours drive away. So again, it's kind of odd, especially with supermarkets. I mean, if you think about it, yes, an autonomous vehicle can take a load from Waltham Abbey up to Crick. But then Waltham Abbey services all of London. The Waltham Abbey depot would service... what is it? I used to work there. The agency doesn't have that contract anymore. But you'd go to Great Yarmouth, to a store delivery in Great Yarmouth. You'd go, and you'd think that Northampton would do that one, but they don't. God knows why. But again, it's that kind of distance, it's that kind of trek. The autonomous vehicle can take you on some of the major roads, but then of course you've got a lot of the back roads. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes about, but I've got a sneaking suspicion we're going to see a huge amount of legislation slowly eking its way in, making this job harder and way more expensive. That's going to have a knock-on effect with drivers' wages. They're going to go down. That's guaranteed. Because if the company's got to pay a lot more for you to live on the road, they're going to pay you a lot less. It's just basic business sense. You know, it's not nice, it's not great, it's not good, it's not wonderful, but that's what's going to happen because everybody expects the shelf price to be low. Because everybody's got used to living on sod or wages. Because nobody's standing up and asking for more pay. You know, we're not having the industrial action that we should. I'm just saying. I mean, just imagine, if you will, that every single driver in the UK, every single driver, whatever nationality you may be, but every single driver comes together and decides next Monday we're not going to go into work. We're just going to not go in, and we're going to strike. And every single driver, no agency guys break picket lines, no company guys go in, no one. We all walk out, okay, on the Monday. And we're not going to go back to work until we're paid 70 grand a year salary across the board. That will go up 5% above inflation every year, forevermore. Okay. And we do no more than, say, 12 hours a day. Now, that's just me grabbing at something off the top of my head. But that doesn't have to exist. But let's just say that we did that. Okay, 70 grand a year, and each year you get a 5% above inflation pay rise. Okay? And every single truck driver walked out on Monday. Monday midday, we'd be signing our new contracts. Now, a lot of people will sit there and go, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Oh, yeah, you would. Because you bring this country to its knees. Everything would stop. Literally, everything would just stop. Monday midday, you'd be signing your new contracts. Oh, yeah, well, how are the companies going to afford it? Well, simple. Every single company will be paying 70 grand a year. So every single company will have to increase their wages, their costs, their pricing accordingly. So you're still going to have the competition. You're still going to have, that kind of fight between them who can save the most money, all this kind of stuff. Everybody's costs are going to go up exactly the same amount. But think about it. No, we wouldn't do that. Truck drivers just don't do that. You've got truck drivers on some of the sites I work for. Some of them are working for 500 quid a week. Other ones are working for 800 quid a week. Same damn job, same damn site, it's just different agencies pay differently. So there's 500 quid a week. Yeah, I'm doing well at 500 quid a week. Really? I mean, if you say so, well done you. You know. But it's going to be... Why is that doing that? I'm already on break, you silly bastard. It keeps flashing up, telling me, 15 minutes, 15 minutes of your driving time left, got to have a break. Keeps flashing at me for some bizarre reason. The ignition is completely off because I'm on 4 hours, 18 minutes of driving time. Cutting it really close. But the thing is, we won't do that. We'll bitch and we'll moan and we'll F and we'll blind and, oh, well, what's your point? We ain't paid enough for this. But we won't actually do anything about it. We won't actually come together as an entire industry and do anything about it. You think this 45 hour reset thing, 45 hour reset thing is a load of bollocks, because where are we going to stay? What can we do? Well, if everybody came together and acted in unison, what could they do? I mean, just imagine if you didn't go into work, everybody, the same week, say the first week of November, for argument's sake, the 1st of November. But the first week of November, nobody goes into work. What would happen? How long before you're going back into work on whatever terms and conditions you want? I mean, think about it. But no, we won't do it. Nobody will do it, because, well, what's your point? It's all bollocks, isn't it? Fine, be like that. Yeah, well, why don't you go full time then, Bill, eh? Why don't you go full company, boy? Because I don't get paid enough to do that. That's why I'm agency. I earn more than you. Simple as. Yeah, but, company, you get holiday and sick pay, don't you? Well, you're on 32.5, for argument's sake. I know a couple of companies I work for, that's what they pay their drivers. 32.5, and that's your holiday and your sick pay included in that. Yeah, well, I'm on 36 grand a year. Ding. Why do I want to lose money for holiday and sick pay? Because the holiday and sick pay are within your 32.5. 1 + 1 is 2. It's one of those kind of arguments. It goes round and round and round and round and round. But it's just an odd industry to be in these days. I mean, I speak to a lot of the older guys, the ones who are pretty much should be retired by now. And when I started, they were coming up to retirement. Some of them have retired. And there always seemed to be this camaraderie between the drivers and this kind of... the stories they used to tell. And it just doesn't seem to exist anymore. It just doesn't seem to be there anymore. I mean, the last major hurrah we had, realistically, was back in the early 2000s when there was all the go-slows. For the fuel price rises. So you put on all these go-slows because fuel prices are going up, but your wages are going down and you're doing nothing about it. You're thinking about the wrong thing. You're looking at it completely wrong. If your wages go up, it doesn't matter about fuel prices. Yeah? If costs go up and profitability of companies, because costs go up, they can charge more and so on and so forth. Wages go up across the board for everybody. Companies can charge more. They earn more money. It doesn't matter about fuel. It's like going to the doctor with... you're running a temperature, you're hot. You're dizzy, you're nauseous, you're bunged up, all that kind of stuff. You've obviously got the flu, and all the doctor does is treat your heat, the fact that you're hot. You're not really treating the flu, you're just treating a symptom. It's like all of this, everybody is so concerned these days with the equality thing, with wages between women and men, which is fine. If a woman does the same job as a bloke, she should be paid the same. That is bloody obvious. If it's commission driven and she's not hitting her targets and he is, well, you can't really argue that one. But if she's hitting her targets and he isn't and he's still out earning her, you can. But the thing is, you're so focused on, right, so the bloke's earning 30 grand a year, the woman should be earning 30 grand a year. You're so focused on that, you're not figuring out that really they should both be earning 45 grand a year. Do you see what I mean? It's like, oh, well, she should earn 30 grand a year if he earns 30 grand a year. So you're earning a combined 60 grand a year. Take your mortgage, your childcare costs and your living costs out of that, plus your pensionable contributions, your taxation and everything else, and you're barely surviving. So the symptom is, oh, it's equality. But the reality, the disease is you're not paid enough. If you were both paid 45 grand a year, you'd be on 90 grand a year combined. Your life would be easier. In real terms against the average house prices, your lives would be easier. The other thing is, you work for a haulier out of Carlisle, for example, carting food products, okay? Now, that load is worth exactly the same amount, has an identical load of food products being carted out of Waltham Abbey. Yeah? Right. So why is the driver carting out of Waltham Abbey getting paid more than the driver going out of Carlisle? The value of the products is the same. The value of the load is the same. The company is making the same amount of money on that load, whether it's out of Carlisle or whether it's out of Waltham Abbey. So why is a Carlisle driver not being paid the same? Nobody's focused on that. Everybody's focused on, oh, well, you know, the area's cheaper to live in. Doesn't matter. It's your wages. It's your income. And you're not focused on that. You're focused on a symptom, not the disease, not the virus. The symptom. And that's all you ever focus on. And, you know, you want to complain about the industry, you want to complain about this and that and all the little symptoms of the overall issue. And the fact is, you're just not paid enough and you're overworked. But you do nothing about that one. I'm just saying. But anyway, I think I've dragged this on long enough. Saves me having to do anything on my days off now. And this is going to be an every Tuesday upload, yes. It will be an every Tuesday. But anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share about, do whatever it is you usually do. I'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. See you later, guys.